Hello YouTube. So I've drawn my pattern. It's a double dagger karambit style fantasy knife, and it's on CPM 3V steel. It's about a little more than 8 inches this way and 4 inches this way, maybe 0.16 to 0.18 inches thick. And the first thing we're going to do is drill a 7/8 inch hole. I do that before I do any other cutting. I might even consider cutting out the hole here rather than using a handheld saw or a grinding disc to grind that out. So I'll cut this hole with my drill press, and then the rest I'll grind out with either sanding discs or a grinding stone or something. So this would be the first step after drawing the pattern, deciding what I want, drawing the pattern. The first thing I do is cut the holes, only because it's easier to secure a large piece like this with the clamps. And I use 2 clamps because I'm on a block of wood, and if I use one, the metal will tilt. So I use 2 on opposite sides to keep it pretty steady. So I'm going to drill a hole. So the placement of the hole was pretty much eyeballed, and I'm only off by a little bit, but it's not a big deal. So I'm going to continue cutting. I put a drop of oil in that groove, as well as coat the outside surface of this Milwaukee bit, 7/8 bit. This way it minimizes the friction. And here goes. Put another drop of oil in there. A little oil on the outer side. And continue drilling. Milwaukee bits last a pretty long time. I might get an easy. Okay. And there we go. So I decided to drill the other hole and then cut. The next step is to cut out here. Just wanted to point out that these Milwaukee bits work a lot better than these from DeWalt. The price I think is about the same. This will last me about 4 or 5 cuts. These at least 10. So now the next step is to cut out the blade from the steel. So the next step now is to cut out along the Sharpie marks with the cutoff saw. So far I've made 2 cuts with the handheld portable cutoff saw. I could have used a bandsaw, but I don't have one. I don't have the table space for it. My next cut will go across and then down here, and then this piece here I could use for a little neck knife. So I'm finished cutting the knife out of the steel, if you will, because this line here didn't meet with this line here. I could have extended it, but there's always a chance of the metal hopping, or the blade hopping. So I just took a drill bit to it. Now the two ends meet, and I can lift the knife out. So there it is. It's got some sharp edges on this side, so I'm not going to put my hand inside the hole yet. So I'm going to touch it up with the belt sander. Maybe knock off this this edge here, knock off this edge here, get it a little closer to the shape of the blade, and I'll put it back on the camera. So here I am with the knife. I skipped a whole bunch of parts and didn't think it was necessary to show you how I put the knife in the vise and then use the Dremel to make these rounded parts here. Also use the Dremel to smooth out the corners here so they don't cut into my skin as I'm trying to fine-tune this fantasy knife to my hand. Feels really good in the hand right now, very menacing looking. Also spared you showing you how to cut out the shapes. How I took it and just using the edge of the belt sander, or the actual sanding belt, how I carved out using both sides. Let's see, do it this way. How I carved out these notches, went all around, and then used kind of hard to work with one hand. Use the magnet here to show you how I sand the both sides of this piece of metal. The nice thing about using this magnet, it's a pretty strong magnet, rated for 150 pounds. I don't believe it, but it's a pretty tough magnet. It keeps your work flat on this platen, and you can move this left and right and up and down. Spin it a little bit. If the metal gets hot, you can work on this longer without having to cool the metal frequently because your fingers are making contact with it. And it also gives you an even flat weight, if you will, pressure on the metal, so you're sanding nice and flat. Still, if you look, it seems like it does hit the ends a little bit. I must have been leaning on that side, so it's a little shinier there. So, as I said before, I like cleaning up the surface before I do any kind of initial grinds, because it's just easier to work with later on if you want to polish it up. I'm going to pause it for a sec. And as I work with the metal, I kind of decide which way I want to go. Do I want to go with a high polish, make it look nice and fancy, or because this is kind of like a fantasy knife, demonic, crude, not very functional, kind of barbaric. Maybe I might keep some of that surface. Let me just zoom in. Just wipe it off my pants and zoom in. Where are we? If I can zoom in. I'm not sure if it's going to focus or not. But it's got some pitting, some roughness to it. You know, maybe that adds character. I also see there's some deep gouges in the metal. Some pitting. So even if I do try to make this highly polished, there's going to be some pitting which I can't avoid. So probably won't go with a high polish, only because of the quality of the metal. So I'll just clean it up a little bit, and then my next step would be to, with these 50 grit grind lines, clean them up, and then put a center line in that, and then start making cutting the grinds out. How come you're not focusing? There we go. So since you're there, let's see if I can show you the pitting. Are you going to focus for me? Okay, so this is where I'm at with the knife. I'm probably going to put the knife down for a little bit while I think about what I'm going to do next. maybe start another project and then come back to it. I still have some thoughts as to, do I want to have a double-sided here and double-sided there, or maybe just a one side here, a little bit of a false edge there, only for safety reasons. When I grab it, I don't cut on this end. Maybe this double dagger look is a little corny. Maybe if I could make it look a little different, maybe just kind of cut this part out here, single side edge, and just kind of maybe a little false edge here, kind of hollow out this part here, just so it doesn't look too similar, but looks kind of cool in the hand. Very lightweight, it's good metal. And that's where I am now. So I've taken the blade and I marked the edge with a black Sharpie. So now I've got something to scribe with. Measure the thickness of the steel. So it is 1.5. Sorry, 0.15. Just make sure I'm doing this right. That's 2.2. Yep. 0.15 is the thickness. So I'm going to take that and cut it in half. And then take off a little less. And then, what do we got? Here we go. Just scribe both sides. Take a look at what I did. It looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. And over here. Let's see if the camera will focus on this. There goes my scribe lines. Taking a look, and I'm not too happy. I don't think it's in the middle, so I'll have to fix that or do it over again. Okay, so I started the initial edge, and I brought the grind to the center line, if you will, leaving more than 0.02, it's probably 0.03, 0.04 thickness. This inner side is going to be challenging. I got to figure out how to do that. I can't get this into the this edge here to the belt, so I'm having trouble. Alright, so how did I do this? Very simple, just giving it a good 45-degree angle or so. I start here and bring it down, start again, bring it down, take a look at where I am, see how close I am to the grind line. Come on, focus for me. And then switched it to the other side. Same for here, and then same for here. So on one of these sides, you could see, if I pan back, that the top blade here is about to hit the machine. So I can't make the top blade that much longer than it already is, or it starts interfering with the machine. I think maybe I could start at an angle and then pull it back if it was longer. It wouldn't be a straight drop, it'd be more of an angle drop, you know, plunge line. So if I hold it this way straight, the top blade hits the machine. So if the blade was longer, the top blade was longer, I'd have to start this way, and then start, and then bring it, and then down. So my next step is to take this grind line and bring it down somewhere to the center. I'm going to eyeball it. I'm not going to draw it in. The smart thing to do is drawing it in, but I'm just going to eyeball it, see where I get. I mean, yeah, I did draw it here, but this was rough hand. So after a few passes on the belt, I've got a flat grind on both sides, And on the bottom knife, it's not perfect. It's close. Still, you know, developing my skill doing this freehand. So I don't have to rely on a jig. I've got a feeling that if I use a jig and I put it back on a jig later on after heat treat, if I have the wrong settings, then the grind will be off. But if I could do this by hand and by eye, then I might be able to have more freedom and just overall have a better skill level. Let's see what it looks like in the sun. Ooh, shiny. Okay, let's see where we are here. It looks better here. There we go. So, what to do? What's next to do? Well, my dad wanted this one after he saw a drawing of it. That's just an extra piece that came out of here. I think it was like this. So this will be a neck knife. The question is whether or not to put a false edge or a sharp edge here, or just leave it the way it is. And I brought it down to the center lines. It's fairly even. Maybe a little thicker here on this side than on this side. That's alright. It's a fun little project. Okay, so I took the focus. Are you focusing or not? I don't know. So I apologize for the lighting. I don't know what to do. So I took the belt sander and grounded out the sides. And then this one was tricky. The inside one here was tricky because I can't get in there. So I did a convex this way. I just brought it back and forth. And the angle, the max angle I can get is limited to the gap, if you will, or the angle created by the two blades. I didn't want the bottom of the belt to be rubbing on the knife. I didn't want to rip the belt and have the belt hit me, or to get the knife caught under the belt, the seam, and have it fly out of my hand. So that's about the max angle I can get. And for safety reasons, I decided to keep the, where are we? Here we go. Come on, focus. To keep this bottom part here a false edge rather than a sharp edge. Come on, focus. So it's a false edge. Still, for aesthetics, looks nice, looks menacing. My dinosaur footprint logo. 2 digits here, a 1 knuckle, 3 on that side, 4 in the middle. I don't know. If I'm going to put handles on it, very likely, well, if I'm going to put handles on it, I need to score up this side anyway, so I was just having fun here. Alright, so I'm pretty much done with this. Pretty happy the way it came out. Going to send it out to heat treat in a few months. This is looking at my work. I've got 2 projects there. I've got 1 project there. This is my 4th one. 16 more knives to go. So that's going to take a few months. But this feels nice in the hands. Nice and comfortable. Nothing like making a custom-made knife. Menacing. Yeah, I don't want to cut myself on this side, so in case I have to flip over, I don't want anything to... So, well, there we go. The grinds, let me just point out that the grinds aren't perfect. Let me just see if I can get the angle to reflect on it. You can see that it isn't a perfect flat side, but for my skill level, I think it's pretty good. What I will do after it comes back from heat treat is convex the sides here, and that always works for me to smooth out these imperfections. I can take a file to this. Haven't done that yet. Not too sure what's going to do to the knife. This center line here, which I'm not sure you're seeing, the center line here is doesn't line up to the tip. It's not straight. I can fix that with the convexing. Here it's pretty straight and lines up to the tip. I got lucky here. I can keep grinding both sides until I get it straight, but then I'm losing material. There we go. Then I'm losing material, right? So I'll do that after heat treat, because there's not much left here. This is a 0.15 inch thick. It's pretty thin for me, so there's not much for me to play with or to screw up. Doing it by hand, I hit it a little high a couple of times here, so either convexing or I will just flatten this out and fix it. Everything else of this is on this is pretty good. Maybe what I'll do, smooth out these edges here before I send the heat treat. Pretty boring stuff. I'll use the belt sander, or if I come around to this side, I'll use the disc sander. Make sure it's squared off 90 degrees so you get a nice line, nice true this way my sides are all nice and squared off. So to get the inside parts, I'll have to use the Dremel. Okay. I think I'm going to have to do a lot of editing to clean this video up. I don't have a name for this yet. It's kind of karambit style, yet it's not really hooked enough to be a hook knife. I don't think anyone's going to want to do any spinning with this. Should do it in camera anyway. It's not really a double dagger. Going to have to give it a name. And I haven't seen this design on YouTube, on Google anywhere, so I have to say this is original. Okay.